only 19 years old. But in 1995, Christopher Jeburk became the name that kept the FBI, local police and the whole system tangled for months. More than 10 bank robberies in just 1 year. Twice escaped from jail. And finally his name was added to the FBI's most wanted fugitives list. What started with a bank robbery and a kidnapping in North Augusta slowly spread to the east coast of America, where Jeberk every time left the law one step behind. But the question arises, why did he run? Was he alone? And most importantly, how was he finally caught? All these questions will be answered in today's true crime story. But before we begin, if you like our true crime series, then like the video. Do give your feedback in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. With your support we can bring better cases to you. Flowing between South Carolina and Georgia is a river called the Savannah River. On the banks of this river lies a small and quiet area, North Augusta. Life here is very simple. People know each other by name, and Friday evenings are often peaceful. But that October evening in 1995 was different. Something happened that no one expected. Parker and Brenda, carrying their little granddaughter Brianna, were returning home. It was their weekly routine because their daughter Amy worked late shifts at the shop bank. So until Amy finished work, Parker and Brenda took care of Brianna. That day, everything seemed the same until they reached home. As soon as Parker tried to open the garage door with the remote, something was wrong. The remote stopped working. A little worried, Parker went inside the house to open the garage manually. But they had no idea that this time fear was hiding behind the silence of the house. As soon as he opened the door, two unknown men suddenly appeared in front of him. In an instant, they overpowered Parker. They tied him with duct tape and locked him straight into the bedroom. Outside, Brenda was still standing holding Brianna in her arms, wondering why it was taking so long. Then the garage door opened, but there was no one they knew behind it. "Come inside. This is not a joke," a gunman shouted. He pushed them straight into the same bedroom where Parker was already tied up. Now the whole Shee family was in the control of those gunmen. They looted whatever valuables they found, cash, cards, but their real intention was something else. The person leading had made it clear, "We are here for your daughter and the bank money." Their plan was to wait for Amy to return home, control her and then rob the bank. Now Brenda was made to stand in front of a living room window from where it was clearly visible when Amy would arrive. And now their real game was about to start. But when Amy reached home, she felt something strange. The door that usually stayed open was locked this time. In a moment Amy understood. Something was not right. From inside the house, the gunman sent Brenda toward the door so that everything would seem normal from outside. As Amy knocked, the main suspect himself opened the door and without a second's delay grabbed Amy. Now the picture was clear. They told Amy that they had been monitoring her for a long time. They knew her daily routine. When she came, when she left, when she was vulnerable. They knew everything. The next step was the bank robbery. They asked Amy how the bank's security system worked. During her training, Amy had been taught that in such situations, if anyone resists too much, things could become more dangerous. So she answered cautiously, "I can take you to the bank, but to open the vault 2 codes are required, and I only have 1. The leader's reply was, "What will be seen," and along with it a clear threat. If anyone tried anything clever, it would affect your family. Now Amy was put into a car. The rest, Parker, Brenda and little Brianna, were left locked in the house. Their hearts prayed for only one thing, that Amy would return safe. When the kidnappers left with Amy, she played one more trick. She removed her mask so that no one would suspect on the road. At gunpoint, she was told to drive the car. They crossed the Savannah River from South Carolina into Georgia, where Amy worked at the bank. Upon reaching the bank, the kidnapper said, "Drive the car slowly around the bank. We need to see if any cleaning staff is inside." A hope rose in Amy's mind. If I stop the car near the ATM camera, maybe the camera will record the kidnapper's face. She did exactly that. The car stopped and remained there for a few seconds. When the kidnapper felt everything was normal, he said, "Now go in through the back." Before entering, he gave one more warning. "I must be told every single move. If any alarm is triggered, I will know immediately." Amy, while working, showed him the security alarm system, which she could disable. But as they had already said, 2 codes are needed to open the vault, and she had only 1. The kidnapper again threatened that if they did not reach the vault, there would be no guarantee for the family's safety. Meanwhile, the atmosphere inside the house was getting tenser. The gunmen appeared restless. Their fingers were still on their guns, and then suddenly a handgun went off. The sound of the shot shook everyone in the house. Everyone was afraid that the neighbors might have heard it, and then a car pulled up outside. The gunmen inside immediately became alert. From the car came Amy's sister, her husband, and their little daughter. They had come for a normal family visit, but as soon as they stepped into the house, they too were taken hostage. Now there were 6 people tied up inside the house. Meanwhile, inside the bank, the leader told Amy, "Call the person who has the second code right now." Amy called. Initially, her coworker didn't understand. Amy tried to explain slowly that her whole family was in danger at the moment. But when things did not progress, the kidnapper grabbed the phone. He directly threatened that if the code wasn't given, he would come himself. Under fear and pressure, the coworker finally provided the second code as well. But the leader did not disconnect the call. He wanted the conversation to remain connected, so that no police alert would be raised. Amy tried to enter the vault. It did not open. Now the kidnapper suspected, "This code is wrong. The door should have opened by now." Amy tried again, this time very carefully. When Amy entered the code the second time, this time the vault opened. The leader immediately said, "Keep the phone call connected, so that the employee on the other side can't contact the police." After that, he asked Amy which cash bins contained notes that had tracking or any kind of security system, like numbered bills or die packs. Amy identified those bins one by one. The kidnapper left them untouched and began quickly collecting all the remaining cash. About $86,000 was placed on the front counter of the bank. Now preparations for his escape had begun. But before leaving, he gave one more command: "Call your parents' house." Amy dialed the number from another phone line. During that time, the leader sent a message to his partners: "Handle everything at the house and then get out of there." Everything was going according to plan. And as soon as the kidnapper walked out of the bank, Amy triggered the bank's security alarm. After triggering the alarm, a panicked Amy immediately called home. Brenda picked up the phone and said directly, "Don't call the police. The gunman is still inside the house." But by then it was too late. Amy had already triggered the alarm. Meanwhile, inside the house, the gunmen were now checking each hostage's ropes. The Shi family was still terrified, but it seemed like maybe the intruders were finally about to leave. But then one of them stopped. Maybe because there were now 6 people inside the house, and leaving that many witnesses felt risky to them. At the same time, in Georgia, the Richmond County Sheriff's team had already reached the bank. When they realized the truth, that the actual crime scene was not in Georgia but at the Shi family home in Edgefield County, South Carolina, they immediately forwarded the message. The call went to Edgefield County investigator Don Bullock, and as soon as he learned that an entire family might still be held hostage, he issued an immediate alert. Code 1, meaning every available team must head straight to that house. A little while later, another call came from the house. The last gunman had left too, but the police had to be completely sure. The officers went to the house. "Sheriff's office. Open the door," they shouted. Every room was searched one by one, and it was confirmed. All the intruders were gone. The Shi family was now safe. No one had been physically harmed, but the mental trauma was so deep that it was hard to describe in words. It was an experience they might never forget for the rest of their lives. Police began questioning the family about whether they had seen the gunmen's faces, but no one could clearly identify them. The family could only say that all the attackers were African American males, heavily armed and very aggressive. Parker said that one of them had pointed a gun at his head but didn't fire. When the criminals left, the family somehow freed themselves and waited for the police. Parker also said that the kidnappers had taken their son-in-law's car keys. He gave the description of the car and detailed the kidnappers' outfits. After that, an APB was immediately issued. APB means All Points Bulletin, an emergency notice sent by police to all units, so that any suspect or missing person can be found immediately. And as in any bank robbery, Richmond County Police informed the FBI. FBI agent Jerry Jones arrived from the Augusta, Georgia office and conducted a detailed interview with Amy. Amy shared several observations: the leader's body language, the way he walked, and many small details. She hoped that maybe the ATM camera had captured something. She had intentionally tried to position that man in front of the camera, but unfortunately that camera only activated when someone inserted a card into it. so nothing was recorded there. The security cameras inside the bank also failed to capture any clear footage. Meanwhile, in North Augusta, the crime scene investigation had begun. Investigator Don Bullock was given a report of what evidence was found inside the house. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division team found some oily shoe prints on the garage floor, which were photographed to match later with suspects. From the living room, a .38 caliber handgun cartridge was recovered, the one from the accidental gunshot, but there were no fingerprints on that cartridge. All attempts to find fingerprints elsewhere also failed because the criminals had worn gloves throughout the operation. On the driveway above the house, investigators found a car stuck in a ditch nearby. The investigation revealed that when the accused were escaping, they had taken one family member's car keys, but in their hurry, while reversing, they went straight into the ditch. They couldn't get the car out and were forced to flee on foot. From this car, some foreign fingerprints were found, which later became key evidence in identifying the suspects. Nearby bushes contained more items that had probably fallen while they were fleeing: a shotgun, a .357 Magnum, and some clothes and masks and gloves. All these items matched the description the victims had previously given to police. Since the criminals had completely covered their faces and no witness had seen them properly, the police still had no solid idea of what they looked like. So the initial APB all points bulletin that had been issued was now updated. 3 African American males had been seen fleeing on foot, and a third might be in a blue sedan car. All 3 were considered armed and dangerous. It was now 1995, and for the first time the police forces of South Carolina and Georgia were working together on this case. Both state police departments were searching for 3 masked attackers who had taken the Shee family hostage and then robbed a bank. Within just 1 hour of the 911 call, an off-duty deputy was heading toward the Shee family home. During that time, he heard an updated APB on his radio that included a new description of the suspects. As he approached that area, he saw 2 young men walking away from the Shee family's neighborhood. Their appearance closely matched the APB description. The deputy asked, "What are you 2 doing here?" They replied, "We were playing basketball near the church." But they had no basketball, no car, and most importantly, the church they mentioned had a basketball court that was in complete darkness. Now the deputy's suspicion deepened. All clues were pointing in one direction. The deputy immediately called for backup, then calmly said to both of them, "We just have a few questions. You can come to the nearby police station to talk." Both young men agreed. They were brought to the police staging area near the Shee family's house. There they were identified as Daniel Evans and Lamarco Roscoe. At that moment, the FBI Special Agent Jerry Jones, who was still at the bank, was informed about these 2 suspects. Amy Shee, who was now safe and resting inside the bank, was also there. Jones decided, it's time to go to South Carolina and question these suspects direct. When Jones arrived at the police staging area, investigator Kenneth Buss was already there. His experience had made one thing very clear: whenever there are multiple suspects, they should always be interrogated separate. In such cases, one suspect often starts thinking, maybe the other one has already confessed everything, and once that doubt settles in the mind, usually one of them begins to break first. Evans and Roscoe couldn't give any solid details in their story. They didn't give a clear answer about the church, nor could they explain how they even got there. These incomplete answers deepened the police's suspicion even more. Now it was time for interrogation. FBI Special Agent Jerry Jones began with Lamarco Roscoe. In such high-pressure interviews, experienced agents first try to find out what the person's biggest weakness is: any fear, any past experience, or anything that can mentally break them. In this case, for Roscoe, the biggest fear was the death penalty. Jones thought Roscoe probably didn't yet know whether Amy Shee was alive or not. So they were asked the question directly: if your third partner harms Amy, you will be held fully responsible for that crime as well, and in that case you will also face the electric chair. That affected Roscoe. Within a short time he confessed his involvement in the entire incident. When Agent Tones asked, "Who was the leader of your group?" Roscoe's answer was, "Just the name Chris. The surname starts with J." At that moment, an officer standing nearby who was well acquainted with Augusta and the surrounding crime record said, "Could this be Christopher Jeburk?" Roscoe nodded to confirm. "Yes, that's him." Now it was Daniel Evans's turn. Jones told him calmly, "Your partner has already told everything." Evans did not resist much. Without any threats or pressure, he too slowly began to tell the whole story, and he himself named Christopher Jeburk. The interrogation made it clear that Roscoe and Evans were not the masterminds of this operation. In fact, they were simply following the routes Jeburk had laid out. They were his followers, who only knew that for some days they had been going around different banks with Jeburk and helping him plan this high-stakes robbery. As the interrogation progressed, Agent Jones received another detail. A pager number had been recovered from one of the suspects. Jones immediately told an officer, "Call this number now." When that pager number was called, the person on the other end responded, "This is Chris Jeburk speaking." When asked for his location, he said, "I'm currently in Mount Vernon, Georgia, about 100 miles away." His tone was somewhat defensive. He asked, "Are you people accusing me of something?" and then disconnected the call. Now the police had no doubt. As soon as the name was confirmed, investigators immediately headed to Christopher Jeburk's house. This name was not new to the law. The police were already familiar with his background, address, and past record. If Jeburk really was the mastermind behind the whole case, he would now have realized that the police were after him, and he had a big advantage: $86,000 in cash and a long head start. Now he could go anywhere. In October 1995, the search for Christopher Jeburk was underway across Georgia and South Carolina. At the request of the FBI and the Richmond County Department, Jeburk's mother called him and explained that the best thing now would be to surrender himself. And then at around, Jeburk arrived at the sheriff's department with his girlfriend. He was only 19 years old at that time, but he already had prior theft cases against him and had escaped from juvenile detention before. At the sheriff's department, FBI Special Agent Jerry Jones began interrogation of Christopher Jeburk about the Schiff family's kidnapping and the bank robbery. Jeburk admitted that he knew Daniel Evans and Lamarco Roscoe, but he flatly denied any involvement in the entire incident. His claim was that at the time he was in Mount Vernon, Georgia, with his girlfriend and a female friend. He said that he had first taken one girl and then gone to pick up the other. Then the three returned to Augusta together and went to watch a movie in the evening. That was his entire alibi. Alibi means proof of non-presence, i.e., when someone proves that they were elsewhere at the time of a crime. Therefore, he could not be found guilty. Agent Jones stopped the interrogation there and decided to question both women separately. When they were asked whether they could confirm Jeburk's story, their answer was no. It was not true. Now Jeburk rapidly changed his story. According to investigator Kenneth Buss, Jeburk said, "I cannot say where I was at that time because I was involved in an illegal activity." His new claim was that he had been in Atlanta for a drug deal with two people named Ross and Donnie. But investigators did not find this story convincing either. Now the case had reached the federal level. Jeburk was charged with a total of 6 serious charges: conspiracy, carjacking, kidnapping, armed bank robbery, and multiple federal violations. After many hours of questioning, Jeburk finally admitted, "I actively participated in the kidnapping and robbery, but I was not the mastermind." He claimed that he was working for a larger criminal network, and when pressed further, he said that if he talked more, his family's safety could be jeopardized. For investigators, this too was just another false story, another man trying to save himself. On the other hand, Daniel Evans and Lamarco Roscoe had already accepted their involvement. They had admitted to state-level charges, such as theft, kidnapping, and armed robbery, and both were sentenced to 30 years. Now it was time for Christopher Jeburk's federal trial. The case was led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Goolsby. The biggest challenge in this case was that no scientific evidence could be directly linked to Jeburk. Every time lab reports came back, fingerprints and shoe prints matched other suspects. But the greatest strength of the case remained Amy Shea and the Shea family's testimony. Their memory, the accuracy of every detail, and the consistency of their statements made the entire case undeniable. Ultimately, Christopher Jeburk was found guilty on all 6 federal charges. He was now eligible for life imprisonment without parole. Before sentencing, he was placed in a small county jail. There he met James Frierson, a defendant who himself was awaiting trial on 3 separate armed robbery cases. Meanwhile, construction work was going on in the jail, which had caused security to be a little lax. On the morning of March 27, 1996, during a routine headcount, a guard noticed that a jail gate was open. A headcount was taken immediately, and it turned out that 2 prisoners were missing: Christopher Jeburk and James Frierson, who himself was also awaiting trial on 3 armed robbery cases. Some construction workers reported they had seen 2 people running toward the woods behind the jail. Search teams were activated. For many hours, dense forest, marshy areas and the surrounding terrain were searched. Helicopter grid pattern scanning was done, but no trace was found. Now there was suspicion that this escape had been aided externally. Police sealed off the whole area. Roadblocks were set up. Every vehicle was checked thoroughly. Even so, both remained at large. This news became a danger bell for the Schiff family. Their testimony had led to Jeberk's conviction. Edgefield County Department immediately contacted the family, alerted them, and increased their security. The sheriff's team began surveillance outside the Schiff family's home. Every move was monitored. Investigators believed Jeberk might return, either to visit his mother or to take revenge on the family whose courtroom identification had confirmed him. But days passed and there was still no sign of Christopher Jeburk. Meanwhile, another completely different investigation was about to take the case in a new direction. FBI Special Agent Duck Fender and local agencies in Augusta, Georgia were working on an auto theft case. A green Mitsubishi Eclipse had been stolen. A defendant already in jail reported that this car had been used by Jeberk. She was one of Christopher Jeburk's female associates. FBI agents found that woman at a hotel where she was working. At first she denied having any connection to the jailbreak, but Agent Fender slowly changed the tone of the conversation. He believed that more than scientific technology, the most effective way to find the truth was by talking to people in the right way. And when that woman realized that if she didn't tell the truth, she could also end up in jail, she finally confessed everything. She revealed that she and Jeberk's girlfriend had parked a stolen car near the woods behind the jail. That car was their getaway vehicle. The moment Jeberk and Frierson escaped from the prison, they ran straight to that car and fled. Not only that, inside the woods, a hidden campsite was already prepared, where clothes, water and necessary supplies had been secretly stored beforehand. Now they needed just one thing: money. And they knew very well how to get it. In 1996, the day after the jailbreak, FBI Special Agent Jerry Johns and his team began the search for the escaped prisoners. The description of the stolen car was circulated across nearby states. Just a few hours later, the same car was spotted almost 20 miles away in Lumberton, North Carolina. The car stopped in front of a bank. 2 men entered, wearing caps, gloves, and sunglasses. They pulled out weapons and headed straight toward the vault. The employees understood that if they resisted, things could turn dangerous, so they stayed calm and cooperated. Immediately after the incident, Lumberton Police and North Carolina FBI reached the scene. The investigation revealed that around $4,500 had been stolen from the safe. The bank's security cameras were on, but the footage was so blurry that their faces couldn't be identified. However, the descriptions given by the employees closely matched Jeberk and Frierson Bay, but the strongest clue was still the stolen car, the same one that had been parked behind the jail in the woods. Now that very car was seen fleeing from the... For Special Agent Doug Fender, this stolen car had become the most critical lead. It was already registered in the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, a U.S. database maintained by the FBI containing information about criminals, stolen vehicles, missing persons, and wanted individuals. Not long after, a report came from the Lumberton Police. The same car had been recovered in Lytton, North Carolina. But within an hour of recovering the car, another emergency call came in: a home invasion and carjacking. The FBI agents immediately went to meet the victim's family. The family said they were repairing a car in their garage when 2 armed men suddenly broke in. They demanded car keys and new clothes and left just as quickly. When they were shown a photo lineup, both family members precisely identified Jeberk and Frierson Bay. Now the agencies had a clue about the new car. Another APB was issued immediately. Soon, information came that this new car had been spotted in Raleigh, North Carolina, and from the same location, another bank robbery report came in. The puzzle was slowly becoming clearer. The 2 were moving rapidly north. Investigators learned that Frierson Bay had some relatives living in New York and New Jersey, so they assumed that might be their final destination. As the number of bank robberies grew, a clear pattern began to emerge. Along the East Coast's I-95 corridor, bank robberies were being reported one after another in multiple states. It was now absolutely clear that this was not a coincidence. The FBI had strong suspicion that behind all these incidents were Christopher Jeburk and Frierson. According to data, they were the primary suspects in about 11 to 14 bank robbery cases. This was no longer an isolated crime. It had become an organized trail of destruction spreading across the entire East Coast. In several places, CCTV footage and eyewitnesses confirmed that Christopher Jeburk and Frierson Bay were still together, at least as far north as Fredericksburg, Virginia. Now the FBI agents shifted their focus toward New Jersey, since some of Frierson Bay's relatives lived there. Then came a major turning point. A national TV program did a detailed report on the case, and after that, the FBI received two important tips. One of them stated that Frierson Bay might be hiding in a motel in Paterson, New Jersey. The FBI's local team immediately began discreet surveillance on that motel. Once it was confirmed that he was indeed there, the team decided to stay on site. If Frierson Bay was inside and armed, breaking the door could be dangerous. So the strategy was to let him come out, and then arrest him. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as he stepped out of the motel, he was arrested on the spot. James Frierson Bay confessed to his involvement in 10 bank robberies. He was sentenced to 19 years in prison, without the possibility of parole. During interrogation, he said he had no idea where Christopher Jeburk was. But finding Jeburk still remained the FBI's top priority, especially for Special Agent Jerry Johns. Johns believed that Frierson and Jeburk had now separated, and that Jeburk had likely returned to Georgia. The FBI announced a $500 reward for his capture, and began the process to place him on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. And then after a media report, a critical lead came in. A woman called and said, "I think Jeburk is hiding at a pastor's house in Atlanta." She said the pastor probably had no idea about Jeburk's real identity. Apparently the pastor had fallen ill and was admitted to a hospital. When the woman went to check on him at his house, she saw Jeburk there. The FBI team immediately set up surveillance outside that house. On May 9, 1996, a car pulled into the driveway. The driver stepped out, and the agents recognized him right away. This was the man they had been hunting for months. The FBI arrest team was activated immediately, and arrested him on the spot. During the arrest, a search was conducted, and $2,000 in cash was found on him. After being arrested in Atlanta, Christopher Jeburk was sent back to prison, the same one where he had been sentenced for the Augusta bank robbery and kidnapping. His capture brought a sigh of relief to almost every agency involved. But that relief didn't last long. Just 6 weeks after his arrest, Jeburk tried to escape again, and once more he shocked everyone. As soon as news of this new breakout arrived, Special Agent Jerry Johns reached the site immediately. His goal was to secure any remaining physical evidence as quickly as possible. During the search, an incomplete hacksaw blade was found, making it clear that this plan had been in preparation for quite some time. Jeburk had tried to escape through a window, but the outside security was tough. The entire area was surrounded by double-layer fencing and razor-sharp barbed wire. When agents scanned the outer area, they found torn pieces of a prison uniform and several spots of blood. It was now confirmed that Jeburk had been injured while escaping. But he was out, and on foot. Investigators suspected he hadn't gone far. The FBI and local teams began tracking him through nearly 10 square miles of forest and swamp terrain. Soon, tracking dogs confirmed his movement direction. But the dense forest, swamps and hot weather made every step more difficult. After several days of searching with no result, the team decided they needed technological support. The South Carolina Atomic Energy Commission was contacted, and they agreed to send a helicopter equipped with infrared technology. This helicopter, fitted with heat-sensing equipment, began scanning dozens of square miles. Despite all efforts, the FBI's manpower in the high-end infrared helicopter, Christopher Jeburk remained out of reach for 4 days. But then came a miraculous turn. In Appling, Georgia, an off-duty sheriff's deputy saw a wounded man limping along the road. He became suspicious and immediately called the station. Officers spread throughout the area, and within a short time Jeburk was tracked and captured from the woods behind a primary school. He was back in custody again. 2 weeks later he was finally put on trial for the Augusta bank robbery and the kidnapping of Amy Shaw and her family. Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Goolsby argued forcefully in court, "Our job is to protect the community, and in this case it is essential that we ask for the maximum sentence." The court's decision was life imprisonment plus an additional 5 years, served at Leavenworth Federal Prison in Kansas, without any possibility of parole. But Jeburk still hadn't changed. Just a few weeks later, he was caught trying to escape again. this time by clinging under a laundry truck to get out of the prison. He had almost reached the main gate. After that, he was transferred to the maximum security federal penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia. One officer said, even if Harry Houdini were locked up in Atlanta prison, he wouldn't be able to get out. And Christopher Jeburk is no Houdini. And truly no one would be surprised if he tried again. But now he's locked away in one of America's most secure prisons. Harry Houdini was a famous magician, escape artist and stunt performer, a man who could free himself from handcuffs, locks, water tanks and sealed boxes as if by magic. If you don't know his full story, stay tuned, because in our next true crime story, we'll uncover the real truth about him. If you found this story interesting, like the video, share it, and subscribe for more real and shocking cases. We'll meet again with another true and unbelievable story.